Venezuelan government and the opposition coalition are holding a negotiation towards attempting to facilitate some sort of negotiated transition of power. So one of the opposition's main demands is to allow the referendum against the president to continue proceeding after it was blocked earlier in October by state courts. And so right now, that's really the center of this negotiation. That's the center of gravity. The opposition wants to have a shot at contesting the presidency, and the government is engaging them in this, partially because the opposition has gotten to be very strong domestically, or more so than it was several years ago, given the economic crisis and the deterioration of Venezuela's economy over the last several years. So from the opposition side, what we're seeing is the demand for early elections, for the recall referendum to potentially continue, and really for the release of political prisoners held by the government. From the government side, it's a little more nebulous. Really, what the government wants more than anything is for this entire problem to go away, so to speak. They don't really want to be dealing with the opposition in these negotiations, but they don't really have a choice at this point because the opposition is becoming stronger and threatening protests that could potentially become larger and more disruptive. So from the government side, really what it would like to see is for the opposition to stop pressing these demands, but that's not really going to happen at this point. So it's going to engage them in these discussions, but with the hopes that the problem can more or less go away through negotiations. They're trying to delay any potential concessions to the opposition. Whether the dialogue really succeeds depends on whether the government can unify the factions within its ranks. There are some factions, like Diosdado Cabello's faction and his immediate entourage of governors and military officials, who don't really want to give anything to the opposition. They don't want to concede. They just want to avoid a recall referendum or early elections that could result in the ruling party being out of power. President Nicolas Maduro has wanted to take a less confrontational route and engage them in negotiations. But engaging the opposition in negotiations that require a lot of buy-in from the government, such as early elections, you would need the Supreme Court to be on board, you would need all of the National Assembly to be on board for any kind of early election to happen, because you would need to change the Constitution for this. This particular demand requires a lot of consensus within the government, and that consensus simply isn't there right now. So it's really a long shot for these negotiations to succeed as the opposition plans for them to succeed. But really, we'll have to look at the November 11th meeting when the government and the opposition get together again and start talking to conclusively say whether these talks even stand a chance of proceeding into the following weeks and months.